Just a quick announcement at the top of the episode. This week, personal friend and friend of the show and filmmaker Joe LaMattina steps in to rent and review 5 films he's never seen before as I attempt something like a summer interlude. I will be back at it next week with all 6 films in the Lone Wolf and Cub series, and then on to every other film ever made on planet Earth after that, as I am half Irish and have substituted alcoholism for workaholism. On with the show.
This week on the Rental Report Review. If you're gonna steal from the best, and add a few musical numbers. Mahakaal, 1994. Memories, 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 in no particular order. Slaughterhouse-Five, 1972. If building a legacy is difficult, keeping your family intact is nearly impossible. Columbus, 2017. Bleak meets hopeless meets downright depressing. Los Olvidados, 1950. What is a life well lived? A life that belongs to Agnès Varda. The Beaches of Agnès, 2008. What is cinema? You know, what is cinema comprised of? What constitutes a movie? It's a really, broad spectrum from one point of view. And obviously within that spectrum, there's all sorts of different ways that you can approach the form. But a movie like Mahakaal makes me question what the special sauce is of making a movie that works. The movie is being marketed here as an homage to A Nightmare on Elm Street. I was really excited about this movie and I really wanted to like it. But the tone of this movie is all over the place. So they're not just stealing from Wes Craven here, they're stealing from Sam Raimi, they're stealing from Raiders of the Lost Ark, they're stealing from Grease, and they're definitely stealing from Lorraine Bracco's makeup and hair design in Goodfellas.
Who the hell do you think you are, Frankie Valli or some kind of big shot?
I love batshit crazy movies, okay? I love being able to go in and see, like, the collective insanity of the minds of the people who worked on a particular film. I just think it's a little bit postmodern to enjoy a movie for not being good at this point. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be judgy because I have some friends who saw this and recommended it to me, and they loved it. These are people who have fantastic taste, whose taste I respect. I think if you do stick with a really bad movie long enough, then you will fall under its trance. Mahakaal. I think this movie is really best watched high with a group of friends who know the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I'm giving Mahakaal 2.25 stars, but I'm not saying don't watch it. For all its flaws, I do feel like there's a good movie in here. And that movie is called A Nightmare on Elm Street. Is Mahakaal cinema? Of course it is, because it meets all the criteria for what cinema is. Is Mahakaal good cinema? Is the question. Okay, so full disclosure, I knew this movie was not going to be good because I know that Slaughterhouse-Five is one of the greatest novels of all time. It's definitely one of my favorites. And if this movie was any good, we would have been hearing about it. It would be on top 10 lists and people would be, extolling all of its virtues. But the bottom line is the movie falls incredibly short of where the novel was succeeding on all levels. I think there is so much talent involved in this film, including Dede Allen, the legendary editor who edited movies like Bonnie and Clyde, Reds, The Breakfast Club. But it really goes to show that even when you have one of the greatest editors of all time, there's not much you can do with a movie unless the material is good. I'm going to give this movie 3 stars because it looks beautiful and because Dede Allen is a boss. Dede Allen, you are doing God's work by trying to do all this heavy lifting for George Roy Hill, who would then go on the next year to win Best Director for The Sting in 1973. I really want to find something interesting to say about this movie, but I feel like in a way it's just demanding too much of me as an audience member.
Billy, you time tripping again?
But what I actually did realize from this movie is that a film editor is kind of the ultimate time traveler. Every edit is moving us through time. Whether that time is, supposedly continuous, or, that we're cutting from the dawn of man to a spaceship drifting through space. So this movie does have a time travel element to it, and it really, in many ways, the movie operates in the same way that a movie like Mirror by Tarkovsky does, or even All That Jazz, where we're jumping around in time. The problem with this movie is that it just is boring. And I'm not saying that Mirror is a movie that's for everybody either, but Mirror works on a much deeper level. I think mainly because Tarkovsky is so dedicated to the idea of just kind of leaving it up to the audience to come to him and figure things out for themselves. Whereas this movie, I think, is riding the fence between leaving it up to the audience and trying to hold their hand throughout it, which I just don't think works. In All That Jazz, it's hand-holding throughout, but it's so fucking good, and it's one of the greatest edited movies of all time, etc., etc. It's one of the best autobiographies of all time. Anyhow, we'll get into that later. The cinematography is really beautiful in this movie, and it really gets an incredible transfer from Arrow Video. And God bless those guys for picking up all the scraps that Criterion is totally discarding.
From the creators of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, a George Roy Hill, Paul Monash production.
There's this belief that if you're not there when a family member dies, your spirit will roam aimlessly and become a ghost.
Columbus is such a beautiful film. Definitely influenced by Antonioni, by Ozu. The movie's about architecture, and the approach is completely architectural. The performances are architectural in many ways.
You like it here?
I'm really interested in architecture.
I've been a huge fan of Kogonada's for years, particularly with his cinematic essays he did for Criterion Collection. The cinematic essay he did for House completely destroyed me. He also did one for Day for Night, which is incredible. This is a movie I just want to have on in my house all the time. I literally just want to have it playing on loop 24 hours a day. And I just want to walk in and out of each scene, and then I can just listen to whatever the conversation they're having is.
I want to show you something.
This is really a movie about two people who are trying to navigate forgiving their parents for the mistakes they made. The humanity of it and the beauty of it and how they confront each other about what they need to work on is so deep and beautiful and refreshing. That's what I show up for. Like, for me, I show up for hard truths. You know what I'm saying? For the stuff that cuts deep.
I think she's bright.
We have these moments in our life where we meet someone and maybe we only spend a short amount of time with them, but that person makes a huge impact on our life and influences us to make maybe a decision that is going to be life-altering. I really want to live in this film, and I want to believe in everything that everyone says in this movie. Originally, I was going to give this movie 4 stars, but now I want to give it 4.5 stars. I love it. I love Kogonada and his work.
Like I'd been transported somewhere else.
And now I can't wait to see After Yang. Los Olvidados, which means the forgotten, is Buñuel doing the Barry Boys by way of the Italian neorealist movement. It tells you from the beginning these are real people, and it lets you know in the first voiceover that this is going to be bleak from beginning to end. So this movie was made during Buñuel's Mexico period. He made movies in Spain and France as well. And while his later work was much more mischievous and much more comedic in its tone, this movie does not have a single laugh in it. This movie is not particularly pleasant to watch. In many ways, this is a movie that's like, say, like a Killers of the Flower Moon, where you spend most of the movie just wanting this one character to, get what's coming to him. And that's basically what you're sticking around for, because everything else around it is just fucking misery. Fortunately, Los Olvidados is only 1 hour and 16 minutes, as opposed to like the 3.5 hours that Killers of the Flower Moon was. But I love Buñuel because he knows exactly what he's doing, and he absolutely does not want you to be enjoying yourself while you're watching this. It's an interesting movie because it's really about poor people punching down. It's about poor people exploiting each other so that they can stay alive, so they can survive. These poor people don't really have the choice to exploit middle class and upper class people. So all they can do is just really beat the shit out of each other until they get their next meal or they die. Of course, Buñuel is such a skilled filmmaker and storyteller that it never feels like a PSA or some after-school special or something like that. He's definitely bringing like a true storytelling and filmmaker's approach to the movie. Buñuel basically explores every level of depravity within human existence in this movie. One thing I'll say about Buñuel is that he doesn't really want you to feel sorry for anybody in any of his movies. You know, and while I do think that Buñuel definitely has sort of a low opinion of a lot of human beings, this movie never even comes close to being as cynical as anything Michael Haneke ever made. Sorry, Jamie. I'm going to give the movie 4 stars because it's really well done, but I'm not sure this is a movie I would recommend to anyone. I would certainly recommend other Buñuel films first before going to this one.
Conçue dans la ville d'Arles, on m'a nommée Arlette. À 18 ans, j'ai changé de prénom. J'ai choisi Agnès.
Okay, so I just want to say Agnès Varda is a genius, okay? Agnès Varda is cinema. She embodies cinema. I think she really only became truly appreciated towards the end of her life. This film was made just as she was turning 80, and it's the story of her life. It's a first-person documentary, which she totally excels at. She's done several of them. This one in particular, I think, really nails it in every way. Her voiceover is poetry. The visual motifs throughout the film are fucking genius. She is cinema. You know, we go through this list, who the best directors of all time are. Usually they're men. But where the fuck is Agnès Varda in this conversation? Agnès Varda should be up there with all of them. She is one of the greatest film directors of all time.
It's a dream.
I'm not saying every single piece of work she did was 5 stars, but it is clear in everything that she did that she understood cinema on a level deeper than just about any other director you can name. What's beautiful about this movie is that it's a conversation. And it's a cinematic conversation, because this is how she communicates. She communicates through cinema. She's playful, she's vulnerable, she's furious at times, but it's all done under this banner of I'm bringing you all into my life because you, the audience, you mean something to me, right? Because I've stared through the camera, through the lens of that camera back at you, the audience, and I know what your soul looks like. And in this movie, spoiler alert, she reveals that she, by the time she was 25, had only seen 10 movies. Can you think about how intuitively she understood cinema, having only seen 10 fucking movies in the first 25 years of her life? It's unbelievable. I give Beaches of Agnes 5 stars. The trailer does not do this movie any justice. It is one of the most beautiful, autobiographical, cinematic experiences you will have. I could not recommend it more highly. Agnès Varda is everything I love about cinema. So probably not much of a surprise. My top pick of the week is Beaches of Agnes. And in a very close second is Columbus. Both of these films are movies that I will continue to treasure and revisit for sure. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Jamie, for letting me crash the party. Now, Jamie, I'm going to let you watch some more movies.